Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading, we're asking what is the next big change or choice that's coming in for you, and how can you best leverage that for your highest good and happiness. So there's three choices of piles to choose from for this. It's a pretty obvious sort of topic, so I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail about how we're going to look at it. You'll see that as the readings evolve. But to help with the choice, I'm using a different tarot deck for each of the readings, and I deliberately chose very different feeling decks so that possibly that may give you a sense about the energy of the deck and what you might be looking for in terms of your next big change or choice. So for pile number one, we have the Lost Tarot. I'm using the Judgment card for each because it's using your best judgment around this, and also that sense of things completing so that you can start something new or shift something. So the Judgment card from the Lost Tarot for pile number one, the Judgment card from the Wilder Woven Tarot for pile number two, and the Judgment card from the Unfolding Path Tarot for pile number three. So possibly the imagery, the energy of the deck may call to you. Of course, if you feel drawn to more than one reading, go to more than one reading. There might be an amalgamation of issues, or there might be a couple of big changes or choices. One might be a change and one might be a choice, for instance. So you do you. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile one to your reading. So underneath the tarot card, there were a couple of cards from the Animal, Totem and I Ching deck, which is looking at I Ching change energy. I thought it would give us a good sense about the nature of the change that we're talking about, just to give us a theme or a lens through which to look at it. There's also the last card, which is a blessing coming from this, but we'll get to it at the end. And then once we've had a look at this, we'll go into tarot. So for you, we have the reversed hexagram 52, which is the hexagram of keeping still, the mountain, going into the sixth hexagram, which is about conflict. So this hexagram, when reversed, talks about an energy of self-sacrifice and being stuck and feeling restless. And then I think it's moving into conflict, taking something on, because the energy of the conflict is actually quite supportive and it's actually very strong. It's about being a protector, being bold and dynamic. So the next big choice or change for you is about moving out of an environment where you felt stuck, or a situation where you felt stuck, into being able to take on and confront that which is holding you back, or something that is unfair. It could also be acting for someone else. This sort of energy could come up for the sort of person who tends to not fight for themselves. They tend to be a bit self-sacrificing, but when somebody they care about has got an issue, they're right there protecting them. So it could be about that. It could be about protecting someone else. Now, praying mantis, when it operates as an animal totem for you, is about stillness and watching and so forth. And there is a kind of a sense of tranquility, a sense of being in nature and watching and observing. So I feel what this is saying is that the praying mantis energy here is that you have done that long enough. So your next choice or your next change, your next opportunity is about moving out of the observational into the action. And the boar energy as a totem here is giving you the strength to do that. The crash through or crash if necessary, though my sense around this is that you are acting as much to support others as yourself. There's a bigger cause associated with this. And as such, I think the boar energy takes that, gives you the strength to move forward because you are a protector, makes you bold and dynamic. So there's definitely a sense of breaking through something. If it's personal, it's a blockage that you've had, maybe a competition, and you're going to really start to sort of break through that. But it may also be to support other people. And in doing that, you start to understand something about yourself and your own strength. So let's ask Tarot for a little bit more information about this. So we want to get sort of more detailed energy around what this change or choice is that is being offered to you and why. Sorry, it takes a little bit of time to shuffle the Lost Tarot because it's very long. You can't sort of hold it normally in your hand. Two of Cups reversed. Emperor reversed. Okay, so the fact that everything's reversed here, I don't read reversals, if you're new to my channel, as necessarily negative, but I do read them often as stuck or suppressed energy. So it's very interesting that The reason this choice and opportunity is being provided to you is to move you out of a sense of the suppression of some of these choices and some of these energies. For some of you, this could be about love. It could be breaking an impasse with love where there's been some sort of power dynamic and where you wonder whether there's a return on investment, whether in fact you're getting back as good as you're giving. In fact, I think if it is about love, then it is about really standing up for something and seeing whether or not that will shift that energy, or whether you get enough to know this is not something to be committed to. Definitely the sense here is if anybody who sort of felt what I'm being stuck in at the moment is a relationship that's not working, a relationship that's not landing, a relationship that's not committing, this is to give you the strength to really test that out. It could be that you find that some of these energies turn around and it does balance out. But it could also be that it's a necessary thing to break you away from a relationship which is not letting you be strong. If it's not around love, if it's around sort of work or creativity or something, then I think that there is potentially, if it's around work, there is a lot of conflict in a workplace. There is some misuse of power. And I think you're observing it if that's the case. It's not having a good material outcome for the workplace, but it's also meaning that people who are not really worthy of being promoted or supported are being promoted and supported, and the ones probably that aren't worthy of it are. So there's something out of balance there. So you may take on a role. You could take on a union delegate role. You could take on a role to be the truth teller in the organisation. You might also decide that the one thing that you can do is to walk away from it because it's not going to, this environment is not the right environment for the sort of leadership that you would like to do, the sort of protector leadership, the servant leadership. There may be a sort of change or choice which is about not being so committed to something. So the breaking free is not to actually go into direct conflict, but to vote with your feet, so to speak. But certainly there's something that needs to shift. There's something that is stuck. And I do think it requires you to deal with some sort of illegitimate energy. So whether it's a relationship that's not settling and is power and dynamics and not fair, or whether it's something in a workplace or a creative exercise or a collaboration, whatever it is, it's very clearly saying this shift is necessary, this change is necessary, this choice is necessary, because it really is crash or crash. It could be, and we'll see as the cards develop, that by standing up for yourself and the issue or whatever it is, that you turn some of these reversals around and you find that in fact it can be rebalanced. But if not, as I say, walking with your feet is or voting with your feet, so to speak, is a very powerful energy around this, because the only thing that would be a problem is not to take this choice and to stay stuck. You've observed this for long enough, though, saying that with the praying mantis. You've watched it long enough to kind of know. I think anybody who's come to this reading will know whether this is really saying right now, you know it's not going to work. You need to make the decision to move on. And, if it's from a workplace, obviously you need to get a job and all those sort of things. But start to focus on that, focus on action towards the change. You may also know that it is a little bit imbalanced, and if you stand up for yourself, it could go either way. But either way, you will know roughly where you sit in this sort of change or choice dynamic, I think, pile one, if you've come to the right reading. So let's see what you do definitely see, what that praying mantis has seen for you in this sort of stuck energy. What do you already know that will help you make the choice or bring about the change? Okay. I have to say that for most of you, I think you know that voting with your feet in one form or another is probably what's necessary. I feel like there may be a call here for you, not just to walk away, but to stand up for yourself under certain circumstances. If you've been lied to, if you've found somebody never fulfills their promises, if you feel you've been manipulated, if you feel your emotions have been manipulated, all of which could be happening with these sort of energies, then there might be a sort of thing of you move away from it, but it's important for you to actually air your grievances, that otherwise you may regret later that you didn't do that. There's definitely a sense of something that's not fair or not right. If it's around a relationship, then this person is very much in their head, and it's very much a mind game by the looks of things. They don't commit materially, they just don't. And it may be because they're carrying some pain. You might have actually put up with that for quite a long time because they're carrying pain. One of the things about the boar energy there, And that hexagram is about being a protector. I think you do need to be aware if you have become protective of people whose behavior is not good, like you make excuses for them. But you kind of know that's the case now. You've watched it long enough and you've realized how much you've been boxed in by it. So I do think for most of you, this change is a liberation, but possibly preceded by either an airing of grievances so that you feel you've had your piece, you've said your piece, or because it's the last piece of information, like you're kind of like the jury's out until you do this and then you will know one way or the other. So what aren't you seeing yet around the situation? Okay. One of the things you're not seeing yet, but I think you will once you actually make the choice to move, is that the choice was always yours. That you put a lot of creative energy, a lot of passion, a lot of the fire and the inspiration into whatever this situation was. So, but that it's also early stages. You may actually credit this as having more importance to your longer term life than it does. So it could be a career that you put a lot of effort into, and or a professional thing that you've learned that you put a lot of effort into, and it sort of feels like, oh my God, like all that effort, if I walked away from it now, or a relationship that you really thought had a great deal of promise, but you feel like you haven't really developed it yet, or that you've developed it to the point that you don't want to leave it going. But what this is saying with the Two of Wands is it was in its early stages. That and you could get even more stuck. It's a bit like, I get a sense of like quicksand. It's like when you first sort of like get into quicksand, you're slowly sinking. If you start to fight against it, to try and to salvage the situation, you sink even more into it. It's like there would be further to go into being stuck because of your belief in it if you don't look at this. But there is a possibility with that kind of energy that if you do stand up to it, in some cases, the people who've come to this reading, it may shift the energy. It's important for you to do it, for you to establish your place in the sun, your life path. This is drawing you into something that's slowing you down, and you kind of know what you should be doing, but it's got in the way. The other thing that you don't see is that there was something that you learned from this, and there was something from the investment or the relationship or whatever it is, but it's now time to shift the perspective on it. This is a card to me whenever the Eight of Coins or Eight of Pentacles is reversed. I always think of unlearning, because the Eight of Pentacles upright is sort of developing skills, studying, all those sort of things. So I almost feel like now this crash through or crash, this situation either has to shift significantly when you stand up to what has sort of got it stuck in the mud, so to speak. And so something different has to come to it, a different approach, or you have to unlearn your loyalty to it. Because I feel like you've had a lot of loyalty to a person, to a situation, whatever it is, that hasn't been returned. And you don't understand how much you have to unlearn your sense of commitment to things. I feel like you are a person who wouldn't sort of walk away from something easily, who's very persistent and so forth, and does put the energy in. But there's almost like an unlearning needed here to get you back to what you were really trying to do in the first place. So I do feel for most of you, this is very much a sense about a change or a shift towards movement, towards change in some way. So let's have a look at some fortune energy about it. So let's have a look with some Chinese I Ching, like another version of I Ching or Chinese energy, about positive energy that could come from taking on this choice. Confronting or walking away, or confront and then walk away, or confront and then resolve, whichever the situation might be. Work. I think for many of you this is about work. And I think it is saying that there is work to do around this. Like whatever happens, it's either work to now bring it back into balance. If confronting it shifts it. If it's confronting something to protect someone else in a workplace or something like that, then there is work that will follow from making that confrontation, moving more into that leadership thing. But I think for many, it's just saying this is most likely around a workplace or a career. And karma. Okay, so there's something very karmic about this. Very interesting too, because 34 adds to 7, 16 adds to 7. I feel that the sevens here are showing that you are very spiritually protected with this. So, you haven't done anything wrong. Like the point about this is you haven't done anything wrong, but except now the pressure is such that you need to make a decision and confront a situation in some way. And it could be to complete a cycle. I think, 2 7s could suggest completing a cycle, but there is something very fateful about this. This is a key point in time in your life, in your career, whatever this is associated with, that is a tipping point in a way for you to determine what the sort of next cycle is going to be for you. What not necessarily the next life, but the next, next few years or whatever it is. Like, do you take this choice and stand up for yourself in one way or another, in whatever way it is, or are you going to stay stuck? Okay, so let's see what other fortune energy, might be either not necessarily negative or challenging, but all other forms of protection using Madame Endora's deck as well. The Golem, a close friend acts on your behalf. Okay, so it looks to me as though whatever happens around this, you may be supporting and protecting someone, but you will then in turn, through karma, have it paid forward and someone looks after you. If you've decided you needed to leave something, you crash or crash, it doesn't sort of resolve in the way that you might have wanted, someone is going to be there to support you. This may also be this Two of Wands. What you don't see is that there's someone in your corner who maybe like you is watching the situation, or even, you've been a bit out of contact with because of all of this energy, but there is someone who will support you. So that is very good. And Medusa, jealousy leads to a downfall. So there's something in this environment, as I say, that's not right. I actually get the sense from this, say this was a workplace, because it looks like for many of you it will be, that there is a lot of illegitimate nepotism, favoritism, bad sort of behavior around sort of managers and leaders and so forth. And if you raise something to the surface, even if it is just to leave, or even if you leaving in some way raises this to the surface because you were such a good sort of asset to this organisation that you leaving is an issue, that's going to start to unravel the karma of the others in there. It's sort of like you're just meant to tip it, and then by saying something, by standing up for yourself, by standing up for someone else, then the universe and karma is going to look after you in whatever the situation is. And even if it is to resolve the situation and stay there, in the process of it, you're going to see these jealousies and there's sort of like nepotism. And if this is around relationships, you're going to understand there were people getting in the way of all of it. If it's a relationship that could resolve, you're going to actually understand there were other things operating, which you've seen a lot of it, but I guess maybe with the praying mantis reverse, maybe you haven't seen everything. This is the only way you can really have enough information to know what was really going on. But there's some really murky energy that you've just got to push through, because you can't stay stuck in that. That's not good energy. Okay, so with all of that, let's get you some astrology or numerology energy to support you, help you, some sort of lenses or focuses to take you through this change or choice. 33, there is a lot of sort of spiritual energy here. You are actually very well developed to deal with this. You are ready to sort of step into some sort of leadership, some sort of role that people will follow or understand what you're doing. And your skills are such that you will be fine whatever happens with this. Oh, yeah, and 11. So it's really trying to sort of hammer home this point. There's something very divinely inspired by this for you. This is why it's important to turn the sun around, because this is about your life path. There's something about you. This is why it's a tipping point. This is why it's about karma. There's something about the way that you deal with this choice that sets the next cycle for what you're doing in your development and growth. And you're meant to sort of, go into a leadership role, into a creative leader, whatever it might be. And if it's the wrong relationship, it might be this is what triggers you to bring in the right one. Just by standing up for this. I just think you've always kind of put other people's feelings and wants first, and kind of thought other people will do it. But that's not really the environment that you're in. It's not really the people that you're around. But there are some good people that will help you once you start to sort of move forward. And trine, it's going to be easier than you expect it to be. There's going to be more harmony at the end of this than you expect. So let's just see what the planets are for the trine. So I'll just deal out till I get planets. Mars, so action, and potentially in the workplace or in something like that where there's competition. Mars and the Sun, yeah. You are meant to be able to deal with conflict. You're actually well placed to deal with it. You might have doubted your ability, but you are, because you take a protective and the moral high ground, basically. So it protects you a lot in that, and people do see that and respect that in you. This is something about your life path. This decision, this blockage is there for you to start to understand who you are. This is what it's all about for you. So let's see some of the sort of change energy for you. We're going to have a shapeshifter card and a color goddess card to sort of see how people will view you in this situation, you know, and as you take the choice. A beautiful rat, take care of yourself. Okay, so that energy will tell you that the people that count, close friends and others, will recognize that you need to do this to protect yourself. But I also think they'll see you as a protector. I think for many of you, something that you do, even if it is standing up for yourself, is going to stand up for others just by default. And a color energy around you in making this choice. Amber, ancestry, healing the past history. Okay, so yeah, there's something karmic. And maybe some of this is around sort of stepping out of family issues. This could be a family dynamic that we're seeing here rather than a work dynamic, though it may well be that family and work are connected for some of you. Or there is sort of history around all of this. This is something that's deep within your bones. As I say, it's deep within your karma. People will see you as taking a step forward, as being a healer, as being a protector. Really actually very lovely energy, but you just got to back yourself with it. Okay, so let's see what the blessing was for you. A blessing of stillness. So that might almost seem a little bit paradoxical, since this is really saying the choice is about movement and action after being still. But I think what it says is that once you've done this and the dust has settled, you can go back to stillness and calm. You're not going to be constantly in a battle. Now, this may be showing something about your capacity to do that, but it's almost like part of your pattern, and what you'll learn about yourself is that you do not go into battles that are not necessary. You do not fight just to fight. You are not about illegitimate power. You will not become the thing that you despise. If you are in relationships and there are issues, you will have time out to think this through and to observe again. So you have a bit of a pattern of observing a situation, and when it's necessary, you will rise to the occasion. But otherwise, you are someone of peace and of calm and of connection and of heart. So you do not have to battle all the time. So I think that's a really lovely blessing for what I think is a change that's going to be a little bit tumultuous. You're more than up to it, Pile 1. And people will admire that, and you will have friends probably where you don't expect it, just as you will uncover energies that were a bit murky, as I say. But this is part of who you are, part of your life path, but your life path in itself is more about peace and calm than it is about conflict. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So underneath the Wild Woven Judgment card was a couple of cards from the Animal Totems and I Ching deck, because I think I Ching is the book of changes. And so I think for getting the overarching theme or energy of this change or choice, it's a very good deck to look at doing that. There is also a card here that will be the last card, which is a blessing coming from the change or choice that you make. But looking at this, it's very interesting if you were drawn to this because of the Wilder Woven Tarot, because it is a nature-based, animal-based tarot. Now, that doesn't have to be the reason, or it could have been unconsciously. But the reason that I think it's interesting is that you're starting with the 7th hexagram, which is called the army. But what it really talks about, it's strategic. It's a strategic sort of hexagram with the owl energy. So the owl seeing above, seeing all that could happen, the wisdom and the sort of sense of direction, it is about direction, sight and orientation. So this suggests that you're moving from a situation where you've almost regrouped and been thinking about your next steps. It could be in some strategic thing. So it could be a business strategy, it could be a career strategy, it could be a creative strategy, it could even be a love strategy, though this feels like it's connected with other people, given that the hexagram talks about an army. It feels as though this change is about something where your choices, your direction and your orientation towards something lead someone. Others will follow you. You may already have established yourself as someone to follow in some form. whether that is, as a leader in an organization, whether it's a social influencer, whether it's a creator. It feels like that sort of energy. And it's like what's preceding this choice is that you have got a very good sense, a kind of like our high level sense of what the terrain is. And so you can focus in on where your choice and your action will most benefit. And then you earth it, you ground it. So you start in the air, you start with thought, you start with philosophy, and then you ground it into something manifestation-wise. And here we have the earth with so the actual hexagram is 25, which talks about innocence. And this is sort of like almost going back to first principles. That's the sort of sense of innocence about it. But it's getting back to the elements, to nature and so forth. This could be you having had a very big strategic look at the terrain and working out what is best for you in terms of your true nature, like reorienting something that you do. It could be that you feel that you have traveled quite far, but almost got detached from that. It's almost been on the cause, the big sort of picture items. You actually have to get back to the first principles of who you are. So it could be your nature we're talking about. For some, it could also be something to do with the environment, to do with the natural world. You have a almost scientific understanding of things, and your next choice is about how to earth that, how to protect. The turtle has a protective element with its shell and so forth, getting into the ground, getting into nature. And for some of you, it may be that you've spent a lot of time in the thought processes and almost on a health or an energy level, like to re-establish your energy, to sort of re-energize yourself, you need to take a break. It could be as simple as that. You've been leading the army in a way, you've been doing all this big picture stuff, and you need to actually take a holiday. So for some of you, it may be that, and getting back into nature could be very important. So there's different sort of ways that energy could play out. But I feel like it's largely about, you've done a lot of strategizing. Now it's about what do you want to manifest. So let's see what tarot can tell us. So let's firstly get a little bit more detailed information about the nature of this change or choice. Okay. So there's a few ways that this could be playing out. In one, it could be around a relationship, and it may be that you've become a bit too detached and looked at it almost from a philosophical thing, and it's time to get back into your body and into what the true love, the emotion and the sort of physicality almost of it is. That's a possibility. If it's not about a love relationship, though it could be with this, it may be about finding a love relationship, and you've almost been a bit too detached and strategic about it, rather than what did you really want to manifest emotionally and in your life. So it could be shifting an approach. So this could be like moving from dating a lot of people and just kind of playing the field to wanting to find where you would want to commit, for instance. So that could be the energy. If it's about something that is more around career or creativity, I think the Lover's card there is the fact that I feel that this involves other people. And I think what you've been doing has involved other people, the relationships that you have with other people. And I do feel you've had a kind of leadership role or a strategic role or an advisory role in some way. But that's been quite tiring. That's why I think there is this sort of sense of you need to kind of get back to nature to find out how to regroup your energy. It's like you've taken on the responsibility for a lot of people. This could be at work, it could be in family, it could be friendships, could be anything. But it's time to relieve some of that burden. It's almost time, honestly, to fly away and let the others look after themselves so that you can go back to who you were. You could have spent a lot of time sort of teaching and mentoring others, and it's time for you to kind of go now they have to fly, literally. It's interesting, we have birds for the Lovers. They need to fly, use their own wings, their own energy. You've given them the big picture strategy. You've got to go back to regroup about first principles about who you are. That means you then connect to your heart, you connect to where you get physical nourishment, and you stop worrying about the strategy of it. You almost need to let go of some of that at this point. For some of you, the only way that you can get back to who you are is stop worrying about the strategy and just go into the feelings and the experience of it. Like some of you may be in a very contentious sort of environment. It could be in politics or something like that. And it might have got to a point where you're so strategic that it's actually not really even working for you anymore. It's sort of like you almost don't trust anyone. You can't connect to anyone. It's all a burden. So you have to go back to, why were you doing this in the first place? So if you say you're in a political party, you might have joined originally because it aligned with your values and what you wanted to see in the world, but it's become such a political game and it's all about doing deals and energy exchange with other people that you've lost sight of it. So you have to go back to this. So there's a number of ways it could work, but it does have something to do with other people, the demands they put on you, and how you need to now regroup back to what is going to nourish you. That's the choice or the change you need to bring in. And of course, sometimes that's easier said than done if you're in a workplace and you're a manager, but it may be then getting them other supports, other ways to make their own decisions, making sure that you're not holding their hand all the time. So let's see what you see, what's quite clear to you about this change or choice. Okay, it has to happen. This isn't, I don't think for the people who've come to this, if you've come to the right reading, this is a surprise to you that a very big shift has to happen. At this point that a lot of what you've been doing, you're running on empty now, battery-wise. Or it's got to the point where you can't take strategy any further because it's going to collapse in under the weight of itself. You know that, and you know that you need a different approach. You can't continue to do and almost calcify the approach you've done. This is something traditional that's got to shift massively. And in a way, it's almost as though you went in maybe to bring something new in, and then you got caught in the politics of it. I keep getting something like politics, like, you go into a party with all this sort of, grand ideas about what you're going to do to represent your viewpoints and your constituents, and then you just spend all the time doing deals. So that can't sustain. That it's not a good sort of like use of resources, and you also know that you've got to learn a different way of doing things, or you've got to let them now learn a different way of doing things if you've been teaching them, because it's draining your energy and you've lost your North Star. So you've got to go back to first principles in whatever this is. So let's see what you don't see at the moment, because you're very clear about this, and it doesn't surprise me. You've got that owl level view about it all. But what don't you see? Okay. This is saying one of the things you don't see or don't fully recognize is that there's almost a joy, a sort of weird joy and badge of honor in being the sort of lone fighter in all of this, and being the ultimate strategist and the ultimate pragmatist. Like, it may be hard for you, and you have a great love, I think, for those that you've led or those that you've been supporting or the cause. I mean, you definitely have that, but it's almost as though it's become a badge of honor, like you self-sacrificial badge of honor, and you are Machiavelli in the court, basically. And the problem with that is it's something has to shift in this energy because you're running your battery too low. But you have to understand what it is that you got out of that. What did you get from being the strategist? What did you get from being the one that other people needed to come to? What would it cost you, or what would you fear that it would cost you to let other people fly so that you can go back to yourself? There's something in that you just need to understand, because you are quite brilliant, I have to say. That's why that card came up. But sometimes we can get caught in that brilliance and feel that it defines us. But there is a lot of emotional and material core to you too, and you're living very, very much in your mind. And I think there's almost, as I say, a self-sacrificial, badge of honor about doing it. So you have to understand what emotionally you're getting from that, because otherwise you're not going to be able to shift it in the way that it needs to be shifted. You'll try and do it step by step rather than letting it all go, which is kind of what needs to happen. Or you'll go, I'm going to go on holiday, and then you'll be on the phone every 2 or 3 days to see what's going on, that kind of thing. And you won't get the rest you need, and others won't get the license to start to trust what they do as well. So let's have a look at some fortune energy around this for you. So we're going to use a Chinese oracle and then Madame Mendora's fortune cards as well. It's interesting that came up for another one, karma. This is a important thing for the development of your karma. You are, as I say, you're brilliant. You're Machiavelli. You're all those things. And that you've developed that through karma, but there is a point at which you have to let go and let others and then regroup. And like that is part of your own development. If you don't do that, then you could end up being consumed by the strategy rather than getting the outcome you want. We also have what? Oh, this is so strange. Those cards came up, but in the opposite order in another reading. So it again, it's showing this is something about work, career, vocation in some way, or that you put hard work into whatever this situation is. You're making it like work when it doesn't necessarily have to be. So this is about relationships, friendships, love, whatever. You're kind of making it into work because you're almost wanting to control it too much. Okay, let's see what Madame Endora has in terms of fortune. I'm going to shuffle again because I'm getting too many cards that are like another reading and I just feel like that isn't right. So shuffling again, what does Madame Endora want to say? Okay, serendipity. Bright new prospects are on the horizon. Yes, like allow this, see this as luck, and if you can take a break from it, you can move away, you can let people sort of spread their wings, like lighten up. Like you are light on one level, you're very much in your head, but you're making that such a cause and such a strategy. Like you have to be alert all the time, but luck is also going to be on your side and that will bring in new energy. If you can get back to first principles and back to your true nature, it's going to allow serendipity to work for you. And the Raven, darkness looms on the horizon. Okay, I think that is saying if you don't allow this, then this gets darker and darker. This is what this is saying. No matter how clever you are, one can be consumed by the strategy. One can be consumed by the games. One can be consumed by the role of always leading. And if you do that, it gets darker. You're not getting to the sort of sunlight. You're not getting to what would make you happy. You could become very nihilistic about it. You could be like, this is the game I have to play and this is the world I'm in. And this is saying, no, you can take time out. You can get back to first principles. You just have to allow that you are clever and you don't have to keep proving it because otherwise, and the Raven brings news. So there may be news that comes that really pushes this point. It may be, that you find out that, you're sort of getting really stressed and it comes in the form of, like a stress rash or something and your body is telling you it's too much and you need time out. Or you could hear something about people that you care about and you have to take time out because otherwise that's going to be too devastating for you if you don't spend time with them. So there's something possibly that's really triggering this, but the main thing is to understand that you need to sometimes let go because you're wanting to control everything and you need to get back to who you were. You've almost forgotten that, pile two. Okay, so let's see what astrology can help you. And I'm sorry, this is sort of like a kind of a heavy message, but like it's because you are brilliant. This is the sort of things that happen with really brilliant strategic people. So you just have to kind of get it into balance, basically, and allow that you are. Don't feel, as I say, that you need to keep proving it. So let's see what astrology can help. We have Cardinal. Yeah. You need to initiate something new. This is for you now. You're so used to initiating new things, strategies and stuff for others. You need to initiate a new approach for you. This old approach is not going to keep working for you in the same way. Fixed, yeah, because you tend to be a bit fixed. And I think it also might be a bit of a sort of a process. If you can now initiate something new, you can actually bring something into being that you would want to manifest with the King of Pentacles. So it could also be operating well. If you do take the step to initiate something new first, you can bring in something that feels more stable than maybe the situation is at the moment. And last quarter. So the last quarter says break down the old and prepare for the new. So it's maybe even a process and a pattern. Like maybe think of it as a strategy. Maybe you've sort of like felt like you're in such a sort of like dynamic environment where you always have to have that aerial view that you kind of get stuck, as I say, in doing that. But if you let go of some of that and you go back to first principles and then you ground and you manifest, then you let go of things that are no longer working and you initiate. Like, use your brilliance in that way. Use it in a more cyclic way, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's see a little bit more about how you can appear to others in terms of the change. We're going to have a Shapeshifter card and a Colour Goddess card. Two kittens. You must choose. Okay. You must choose. It's saying it. You really do. This is about karma. This is about what you need to do. So there is a sense maybe here too that you have to choose a side or something like that. And the only way that you can do that ultimately, you might have been the mediator, the negotiator, the person of ways and means politically. You are going to need to choose a side, I think, and that is why it's important to go back to who you are. So there's something about this. There is going to be a battle with the tower. It's becoming a bit clearer. You have to do that. You can't be Switzerland and neutral, as they used to say. You know, you need to choose. People will see that, but that's why it's important for you to stop thinking about ways and means and more about what was the core, what is the nature of this. And it might be a cause where you have to stand up and say there is a choice, you know, environmental cause or something like that, given the nature energy there. And we have white, angels, purity, radiance. Once you do this, people will see a purity. If you go through this, if you do what this is suggesting and you get back to what was really in your heart and what you really wanted to achieve rather than the machinations of the environment you're in, then you will have moral high ground, you will have the purity and so forth, and you also get angelic support, I think. So your choice is likely to be better and people are likely to really respect it. So it's really necessary to do this, to sort of, like, as I say, use that brilliance towards the highest good for you and for others and towards what your nature is. So to finish off, I just want to look at what the blessing is for you. So the blessing of actually doing this, because I do think it's a little bit of a shift. It's a little bit tricky to do this, but there is a very big payoff, I think. But let's see what the blessing is for you. A blessing of the sight. Okay. All right. You already see things. You already do. So you'll continue to be able to do that. And you see we've got the owl again there. But the sight here gives you an even deeper understanding, connecting to the angels, connecting to the Fae. Once you go back to your nature, there's something you've lost, pile 2, to start with, in just being in the mind, connecting to the spirit, connecting to the angels. You're going to get the sight. You're going to get much better at seeing what needs to be done. And in a way, the sight, I think, blessing is kind of knocking on your door right now anyway. This is why you know change is coming. This is why you know something isn't sustainable, a relationship, a career, a political environment, whatever it is. But you're going to find, once you've gone through this, that you marry your intellect with your soul more. And so the sight becomes so much more than just your strategic mind. You won't lose your strategic mind, but it will be much more aligned with your heart. So I hope that resonates for you. It's quite profound. And I think what will come from this is someone that is needed in the world. So I think there's a lot of pressure on you, but nevertheless, you have what is necessary to do it. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So underneath the Judgment card that you chose potentially to come to this reading were a couple of cards from the Animal Totems and I Ching deck, because the I Ching is the book of changes. And so I feel like it's a really good oracle to draw upon to see what big change or choice might be coming up in your life. There's also the final card of the reading, which is a blessing, which we will get to at the end. But you have the 34th hexagram, the power of the great, and the 58th, the joyous. So, and you have the horse as a very sort of strong, powerful movement ahead type energy as a totem, and the hummingbird as a joyous, free, being able to rise up into the heavens, and a very strong connection to the divine and to the other realms with the hummingbird as well. So this looks like it's a choice or a change to move from having established yourself in some way, because this is all about empowerment, unleashing your power, energy, movement, like a lot of ambition, a lot of creativity, a lot of passion in whatever this is. Makes me think of the Knight cards in the tarot, actually. So all of them, you know, the sort of the passionate energy of the Knight of Wands, the sort of quicksilver energy of the Knight of Swords, the steady and strong and will get through energy of the Knight of Pentacles, and also the love, the connection energy of and the kind of open-heartedness of the Knight of Cups. I feel like you are manifesting all of that with this horse energy here. I feel that very strongly. And it is the combination of all those elements that have given you power. You've got a very good balance of all the elements, I feel, which is why there is a choice to now share this with others, to vitalize others, your vibrancy. I think for many of you, you may do it through something creative. You could do it through a major love relationship. It could be coming from having this sense of self and then finding the great love of your life and moving into the joy of that. But it could also be a creative thing that you do, that all this sort of like almost alchemical power that you have is sort of shown and shared in a way that is very inspiring to other people. It could be moving from establishing yourself in terms of study or profession into really starting to fly and to really succeed in your career. But this is a choice or a change that takes you from establishing yourself to sharing the joy with others in some form. So that's a really lovely energy, actually. So let's see with the tarot a little bit more detail about what this choice or change energy is about. Okay, so one of the interesting things about this is that, I mean, like this is, as I say, a very good balance of all the energy, but we've got a preponderance here of swords and a little bit of sort of like emotional energy as well too, and a major arcana card. So I feel part of what you're doing in whatever environment you're in or what relationship you're in is you are bringing a balance that doesn't currently exist so that joy can be unleashed in a relationship, in something creative, in a workplace, whatever it is. You are choosing, and part of your power is choosing the best ways of communicating what it is that you're trying to do to get to this point. And what you can see in this relationship, this environment, whatever it is, that there needs to be almost a intellectual stealth. I don't feel like it's bad. I feel like there are two ways that I read the Seven of Swords, and one is around, the theft, the sort of like the sneaky sort of stuff. But the other side of it is the master negotiator. And I feel with the energy you're bringing into this is what you are. You have a very strong sense of balance. So you are looking at this strategically about how you move from this powerful position you're in to how you share that energy in an environment or in a relationship or whatever it is where the emotional energy is a bit stuck, where people are kind of like divine discontent. They're a bit grumpy about what's going on. So you're kind of looking at it and saying, what's the best way to communicate this? How can I liberate that energy? And I think that you can see that the question is choice. And it's interesting because this whole reading's about choice, but you can see there's a choice that needs to be made in a relationship, in the group that you're working with, in a creative project, whatever it is that is operating here, even within your family potentially. You can see the dynamics and you can see that other people don't have all the information in a way that you have. So it could be, particularly with the Queen of Swords here, if that's you, if that's representing you, is that how you've developed and where you've got to, you have access to more information than other people. So if this was in a workplace, you could understand that a change is coming through, for instance, for the workplace, that is going to move from the consolidation into something that people will enjoy more, but they don't know it yet and they can't necessarily be told yet because certain things have to be put into play. So you're working out how best to share the joy and keep people inspired while that process occurs. It could be in a love relationship, the person that you need to reach, you have to reach through their head first. And they take a bit of time and you can see it because maybe they've been hurt before, they felt controlled before. So you have a lot of power and energy. And one of the things you know is you can't come on too strong because this person will go, no, I've been through that before. I don't want to know. They need to feel that they're making the decision and they need to be appealed to through the mind. So it really depends what it is, but you're using this capacity to use any and all of the elements because you have them you're so strong, you have them so strongly in balance to turn something to joy, whatever it is, to liberate whatever was emotionally stuck. Okay, so let's see what you do know about this situation and about the choice that you are trying to make or the change that you are trying to make. Okay. You do know whether this is if it's a relationship, this person's been really hurt before, and you know that you've got to take time. There's a lot to unpeel. It's an onion, you've got to unpeel a number of levels, and there are certain things that they've been through or certain things in the environment that they're in that are still a bit murky, but that information will come out. You can find a way to come out, but you know a very big change is occurring, and you know that it is to shift someone from being stubbornly on their own as a result of what they've been through before. This is why if it's a relationship, a love relationship, you know you have to go a bit slow. You have to like convince them with their mind and make sure that they feel that they're in control, because there's been a time before where they didn't feel in control. If this is around a creative project or work, you know there's stuff that needs to be brought to the surface. You know something's not quite right, and you know very big change is coming. So as I say, if you were like a boss, you can see big changes, and I think they're ultimately going to be good changes, because they're going to break people free from feeling stuck. But at the moment, it's not something that you can share. The time isn't right. So it kind of depends. The beautiful thing about your energy is there's so much power and so much wisdom in what you do, but you're very finely honed as to when and how to give the messages. And there might be a little bit of frustration. You might feel a bit like a horse champing at the bit to do it, but you also know you're smart enough to know that this is a big change energy, and there's a lot of a payoff to come from it, and that therefore you have to use your powers in the right way and in the right timing, because the big change is coming, but some other stuff has to come to the surface first. What don't you know? I think there'd be much you didn't know, actually, pile 3, but let's just see what Spirit thinks you don't know that would be helpful for you. Okay, so if this is a love relationship, I'm going to start with that one first, because I think for some this might be sort of someone that you want to be with, and as I say, you've got to reach them through, or you feel you've got to reach them through their mind, and there's some truth to that, and it is because they've been hurt. You maybe don't know the degree to which they're still processing emotional stuff. There may be, in fact, a thing here where, yes, use the sort of like the mind and the wit, but you need somehow to also imbue this with stuff that will give them an emotional sustenance. Like the more that you could do fun things with them, actually picking up the joyous to get them out of that pattern, the better, because they're still processing a lot emotionally, and so they're even blocking the frequency a bit in the mind. So it's kind of like to reach the heart, you've got to kind of almost turn on the ear, this sort of sense of unhappiness that is there. So it sort of feels like keep it light, keep it fun, have banter, have fun, do fun things, all of that kind of thing. Don't make it too serious to start with, because they'll kind of like shy away. But understand that they come across as being very much about the intellect, but underneath they're protecting a very hurt heart. So if it's about a love relationship, that's something to know. If it's about a workplace or a creative project, then this is saying that you may be overemphasizing the sort of information side of things as well. It's like it is important, but a lot of this stuff that's to come to the surface is emotional. And so in a workplace, if it's changing, don't think that, well, I know the end product's going to be great and this is going to be good, and so it's just about timing, how people know, because you do have a different perspective because of the position you're in, I feel. Other people will respond very emotionally to this. And you need to sort of like be able to talk on that level at the right time too. There just might be a little bit of you have all that in your kit bag, but it's almost as though there's something about this where people are saying it's all about how you communicate, and in change in organisations they go, communication is everything. But yeah, so is communicating the right emotional stuff. So there just might be a little bit where Spirit is saying there is a risk that you could focus too much on the messaging and not enough on the heart of it. But you are able to do this. It's just being aware of it so that you don't blunt the sword, you don't blunt the message and the promise of the change, because people sort of go into a kind of emotional freezing situation. Okay, so let's have a look at some fortune energy around this for you. So we'll start firstly with some Chinese fortune energy, then Madame and Dora's. Good times. Yeah, there's something about good times. Better times are coming in. when you've done this change or this choice, you are going to bring in joy. It is going to happen. So this is definitely Spirit saying you're heading in the right direction. But I think good times during the process to get there, to the degree that you can bring fun into this, not just the intellect but fun into it, it's going to make it better. Like engage people in their sense of fun and adventure to the degree that you can, or engage a lover if that's the case and having a good time. And that sort of helps break through on other levels. And we have love, so some of you, this is about love. I started to feel particularly here that I had to talk more about love and less about career, though I do think that for some of you it might be around workplace change or creative change or even change within families, and so families could pick up love. But I think for some of you it's about reaching the great love of your life, and you will be able to do it, but you just need to understand how to draw them out, I think, how to bring that joy to them, how to give them the sense of self that I think they might have lost, but that you've been able to develop. Okay, let's see what Madame Medora has to say, which could be other benefits or could be some warnings for you as well. The Green Man, the forces of nature favour you. Because you do have all the elements nicely in balance. You are able to switch it. You're like a multi-talented musician, and you can switch from different sorts of instruments or something. Like, be aware of that. Think about all the different parts of your nature and how that can help. And the King, authority and diplomacy. So for those of you that it is about a work organisation or something, you will have the natural leadership and power to be able to do this and bring this through, and you will have the right diplomacy. So it's in either way and in both situations. And even in a love relationship, it's sort of like you will have the right sort of balance of your personal power, but also diplomacy to allow the other person to have their power. So I do think it's very, very positive, but I just think it's like the environment's a bit, or the people are a bit skittish, and you just need to work out how to deal with that, because you're more grounded in it at this moment that they are. So let's see if astrology or numerology can give you some clues, pile 3. Ascendant. So how you're seen by others is very important, but I think you're seen very well by others, but how you nuance yourself and choices you make in that place is important. Saturn return. It is about you getting serious. So it could be a serious relationship, long-term great love, serious sort of like authority, moving into your power, all of that kind of thing. Saturn can be a little bit dour and grim sometimes. So I actually like Saturn as a planet, but it can be. So this is why it's important to also have joy and fun while you're doing this. And Sagittarius. So your creativity, your dynamism, this is also very joyous. This is very much that sort of sense of bringing in joy, bringing in freedom, liberating energies for people. Your philosophy is going to be very important here, but it's a very expansive philosophy. And there's a lot of learning in this for you and other people with Sagittarius as well. So very, very positive energy around this. It's just about nuancing, how to connect with others. So speaking of others, let's use a couple of decks just to see how you are coming across to others as you go through this change or choice. So from the Shapeshifter deck, we have Beauty and the Beast. Okay, so this says you need some space in a relationship. I think it's probably not you so much as the other person if this is about love. I think that and you will know how to do that. But it may be that if you're trying to sort of balance that, just be very aware this person has a lot of pain. So if that's the case, like you might be trying to kind of like lighten up and just have fun. It's a very nuanced thing here about knowing how to bring joy, because you might give across an image to them that you're not committed or whatever. It's very much a balancing energy. The other thing with Beauty and the Beast is that you may come across as trying to heal someone, and so people may see that, and they, if it's a love relationship, they might not even understand it, but you can see much more within this. If it's around work, it's like, I think, dealing with the beast of the matrix, the power and so forth, that you are the one to be able to liberate and bring out the best in the situation and become the prince, become the king, in whatever gender you are or identify with. It's just more the energy. Let's see a colour goddess energy that they see in you as well. Grey, business, duty, obligation. So yeah, this is I think why it's sort of saying you are very clever, and you've made an assessment on some level that it's around all the kind of grey energy, the kind of, the information, the communication, all of those things. At the moment, that's probably how you're coming across. But if you can have a bit more faith in all of it, including the emotional stuff, the power of love and so forth, then you can actually unlock the joyous. So I think that's just your one risk in all of this, that you become a bit too serious. You feel that you have to, be so careful about what you say. You need to also connect with the heart. Okay, so if you do all of that, what's your blessing, pile 3? A blessing of healing. So I don't think you particularly need healing, but maybe the environment that you're in needs some healing, or maybe, as I say, someone that you love needs healing so that you can be together, or the people that you're working with need healing. But if you get this balance right, if you tilt a bit more towards joy and to sharing, the goals, and sharing the love and sharing fun while you go through whatever, that you have all the things that you need to guide it in a responsible and sort of respectful way. But if you also bring in joy, bring in the heart, you are healing at the same time as you're shifting this energy with a relationship or with a workplace or whatever it might be. So you, of all people, are able to do this, but you need to have that aha moment that you've almost taken on too much responsibility because of the power of the great. You actually need to sort of think about how you share fun and joy with people, and that's going to make it easier for you to shift whatever this is, or to bring whatever it is that you want to bring in. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe, and if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.